So nobody's buying your automations. You built the perfect automation. It probably took you hours to perfect. Every single node, every trigger, you're proud of it, and nobody's buying it. So it turns out all those hours of infatuation with this incredible automation you just built doesn't actually correlate to funds and cash into your bank account. But here's the thing people don't realize. You're not failing because your automation is bad. You're failing because you're selling the wrong thing entirely. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why your automations are sitting here in your portfolio, just collecting dust, and how to flip the scripts that clients are practically begging you to build for them. So picture this, right? A business owner comes to you and you get them on a call, and the first thing you start talking about are the nodes in your workflow. You talk about the model you're using, you talk about the complexity, you break down every single detail of the workflow architecture, and you're saying, but no, we have the trigger and the get reporting value, we have code node, and then all this happens, and then here, and an hour later, you finally get to the point, and they're sitting here thinking, why am I listening to this? This is one of the biggest mistakes people make in business and sales overall. And it's funny because when I actually sold my first automation for $1,000, I wasn't talking about workflows. That was the biggest switch for me. It went from talking about the workflows, all the intricacies, all the details, to not caring at all about the workflows. I was in that meeting talking about something completely different. Instead, I just talked to my client about what they really cared about, which was they'd never have to do research again on which content to post on Instagram or LinkedIn or any of their social profiles, and all of it would be automated. I talked about how they wake up to a pipeline of genuine inbound leads while they slept. I talked about taking back their time and how much more they could do with their time rather than being a content machine running around in circles. And that's what got them excited. It wasn't the tech, it wasn't the workflows, it was the outcome. See, we need to solve problems, not just sell things. And here's the psychology behind that. Your brain doesn't know to buy solutions. It knows to buy relief. When someone's drowning and someone comes to save them, they don't care if they don't have the proper certifications to be a lifeguard. They're not going to stop and ask them for their papers. So if you're still just selling these automations, you've already lost. Instead, we need to start selling those outcomes. Now, here's what separates people who are making $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month selling their automations from the people who are making nothing. One group asks and the other group assumes. You're making these misaligned assumptions, assuming that the best way to go about things is to just take the hammer and start whacking on the nail, when in reality, you need to understand what your audience actually needs. And how do we foster trust and make sure that we're genuinely addressing their needs? How can we assess these problems? Well, we have to ask questions. And I don't just mean surface level questions. They have to be deep questions. Think about going to the doctor. You go to the doctor with chest pain. All right, you walk in. As soon as you open the door, they say, oh, chest pain, right? That's what you're here for? All right, here's some medication. I'll see you later. Is that a good doctor? No, of course not. A good doctor is going to thoroughly diagnose your problem. When did it start? What were you doing when the pain started? Did it get worse with activity? Do you have any other symptoms? They run tests. They continue to dig. Then after that, they're going to prescribe the medication. Now, here's the most important point. Maybe you don't want to think of doctors as salesmen, but at the very core of it, the doctor looks at the diagnosis and he says, you know what? I think you'd want this. And what happens if he's talking to you about your problems? You start to convince yourself, yeah, I do have those problems. Well, when did this start? It started last week. Okay, well, how bad was it? I was just running and I felt something pull in my heart or something. I don't know what it is. And now you're getting worried. And he's like, oh, how long has this been happening? Look, we want to get you back in tip-top shape. All right, so we got to help you here, okay? And you're like, yeah, I need help too. You see what's happening here, right? They're getting into your head because they're telling you, they're exposing a problem, just as you should be exposing these problems for your clients. They either have to deny it, which would be in the form of objections, and all we do is just dig and dig and dig until we can finally get to that point, or they have to tell you about the problem because the problem is always going to be the elephant in the room. And what is the elephant in the room? The amount of time they're wasting, the amount of money they're wasting, how much easier things can be if they're implementing our AI automations into their business. You need to be doing the same thing with your clients. A lot of automation builders are like bad doctors. They jump straight into prescription mode, just writing prescriptions, just, oh, here's the medication. And the person's like, dude, I had a broken ankle. Like, why are you giving me this? Now they're angry because they don't feel heard and everything falls apart. It's like you meet someone who says they're doing manual follow-ups with leads. And of course, you immediately think, oh, I'll build them a follow-up automation. You're already mentally designing it. You're already thinking how much of a genius this person's about to think you are. But here's what you missed. You have no idea if that's actually their pain point. You have no idea what it's costing them to do manual follow-up. You have no idea what the real pain of the situation is. Maybe their issue isn't manual follow-ups. Maybe it's because there's some gaps in their follow-up system that need fixed. Some leads get contacted in 5 minutes while others get left for 3 weeks. Maybe the real pain is their sales team just doesn't know how to close. I cannot tell you how many clients we've worked with where we get them a bunch of leads and their sales people can't close. The follow-up process is wrong. So if you build them a follow-up automation, but what they really need is a sales system, you're just wasting both your time and theirs. So we want to focus on the problems of the problems. What are the problems of the problems? Most business owners are going to have these 3 problems. The first problem is going to be a business problem. All right. So when you're asking questions, the first thing is going to be like, all right, where are you with the business? This is usually how a sales call will go. Where are you with the business? You'll ask them, how are things going? And they'll say, good, or they'll come right out and tell you the problem. They'll say, we just got to get more business going. And I don't really know what the problem is, but we tried some things. These are business problems. So as we're uncovering, we don't want to stop at business problems. If you stop up here, you're never getting the sale. We need to go deeper. Beneath business is what? Money problems. Okay. I think you see where I'm going with this. Business problems lead to money problems. So the flow of questions might be, how's it going? How are sales? How are the operations? They're going to say, oh, it's good, but I have a problem. And you're just going to say, well, why do you think you had that problem? In a respectful manner, obviously, but you want to dig deeper, right? What do you think is causing the issue? It could be that we increased our ad spend and we don't really have the sales team. We don't really have the follow-up systems in place. I think we're just overwhelmed right now. Okay, totally fine. They've given us a problem. But what am I here to do with automations? I know that I can automate 90% of the tasks in any business in only a few hours. I'm here to solve their problem. So we need to dig deeper. Business problems. What business problems are we having? Sales problems, team problems, software problems. These are all just problems. They're going to throw smoke screens like we have this problem and this problem. These are just business problems. But what do the business problems lead to? They lead to money problems. This is where once we start to uncover all these business problems, we need to move to what does that cause? We need to start attaching all these problems they're facing that we can, of course, solve with automation to this issue because no one wants to lose money. But if they see you as the automation guy, you're never going to make any money. They need to see you as the money guy, the automation guy who prints cash, because that's what you are. You're helping them automate so much. The value balance is so lopsided with how much value we're bringing to these business owners. You need to make them feel that pain of how much time and money they're wasting. Okay, so they're either going to be wasting money or time. These are like those second layer, time and money. Because if they had more money, they could afford to have more time. They could afford to have the systems in place. They could afford to hire more people. They can afford to scale their business. Now we're getting to the problem of the problem. So the problem is the business problem, right? But what's the problem of the problem? Well, the problem is the money is going down. What do business owners care about? The money. They don't care about the automation. The automation is going to make the money. But we don't want to talk about, we have an HTTP request node. That doesn't matter. What matters is that we're scraping all of your competitors' leads and giving them to you. And they paid like $30,000 probably for those leads. You're getting them for free. How much more money could you make this month by sending 100,000 cold emails to your specific target ideal customer profile? The next thing is pain. Pain, personal. The pain is personal. So to relate this back to what we were talking about earlier, most automators are going to end up being here. Business. Yeah, we've created these automations. Okay, well, what do the automations do? They're automations. They automate things. Yeah, man. I mean, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I think we'll think about it. What do you mean we'll think about it? Because you didn't attach anything to it. You didn't go any further. So what are we going to attach? Their bank account, their money. Yeah, you're going to lose money. I mean, how much money are you spending right now? $5,000 a week? I mean, look, I can at least automate 80% of that for you. And, I'll charge you $5,000 to do it, but I'll make you $4,000 a week pretty much with that math. You haven't attached the money to it. And you sure as hell, after asking those questions, those money questions, you haven't gotten to the real pain. Dude, I just want more time in my business. There you go. That's where we want to get to. We don't want to stay up here. We want to get down to, I want more time to play golf and to spend time with my kids. I want this pain to be gone. If you do that, all you got to do is ask questions. And you don't need to be a weirdo about it. You just got to sit in that pain. Just ask them questions. We're here to help people because we're giving them something that's so valuable and so ahead of everyone else. And if we keep asking those questions, they're going to end up telling you what the problem is. They're going to end up just selling themselves because they're going to say, I don't have any time. Why don't you have any more time? Because I'm too busy with this. Okay. No, I mean, why are you too busy with that? I don't know. I guess I don't have anything to fix it. Okay. You're spending 20 hours a week doing research. If I could just automate that for you, would that be of any benefit? It's common sense, no brainer. That's simple, just helping someone. Here's the exact breakdown. So we want to understand their current state. Paint a clear picture. All right. What's their current inefficiency? What's the problem? Keep digging. Keep digging. Get to that pain point. Because again, they're not going to be happy with you unless you get to the pain point. If you go to the doctor and you have a broken arm and he can't get it figured out, he's a terrible doctor because you're going to be like, my arm hurts. Please help me. And he's not gonna be able to help you. And you're gonna be like, I thought you were a doctor. It's the exact same thing here. That should click for you. If you don't get to the pain point, they're going to be saying, I thought you were the guy to solve my problems. Why am I hearing any of this? So we need to get very clear on what the current inefficiency is. After that, then we need to convert all that time lost into money. And I know a lot of these automation guys are just talking about time and productivity, but Business owners really only care about making money at the end of the day. So convert that time into money. Help them to visualize and see. Look how much time you're wasting. And now, enough about the pain points. You have to give them something to look forward to. And Hormozy says this a lot. You can't sit in that pain for too long, because if you sit in the pain, then all of a sudden they're like, dude, I don't even know if I can do this. Like, geez, I didn't realize how bad my current situation is. And you don't want them to be there. So after we solve the problem, it's blaringly obvious how much time and money they're wasting. Then we need to start getting them into that positive framework. Okay, well, if we do this, then what does that do? If we implement this automation, how many more hours do you get back? Dude, you tell them I get 30 hours a week back? Let's go. Like, that's what we need to point their mind towards, because now it's like, let me take care of the hard work getting this automation set up, and you're legitimately going to see insane benefits from us setting this up for you. Does it improve their conversion rate? Does it improve their client retention? Can they scale faster? Most people just get to hear, they start talking about the money, and they're like, okay, let's do it. But you need to complete the bridge here. All right, don't stop here. Everyone stops here. Everyone says, okay, so the automation saves you money. Logical. No, we just got in that pain. Don't waste your efforts now. We calculated that pain into how much money they're losing, into how much money now can we be making. We got to switch that. We got to flip it around. Domino effect. You got to start looking towards the positives and how much more it's going to make. So what did we just do here? We took them from the pain state to, okay, here's my problem. Yep, I can identify the problem. Okay. Here's what that's losing you legitimately. Let's calculate the cost. Let's get you in a mindset of logically and emotionally understanding your failures. And now we're going to move to actually putting together a roadmap to fix that. That in itself is valuable. They've probably had nobody else do that. Another reason why you're struggling to sell right now is because you believe that speed equals value. This is a big mental roadblock for a lot of people. I was talking to one of my students and he was like, dude, I feel bad. Like, I sold this automation for $3,000 and it took me 2 hours to build. And I was like, dude, you just have a fundamental misconception of what value means. Because here's the truth. The client doesn't care or know how long it took you to build something. What they definitely care about is what it's doing for them. If I build you a system that saves your team 15 hours every single week, work that you'd have to pay somebody $20 an hour to do, that's $300 a week in labor costs. That's $15,600 a year. And it took me 3 hours to build. I'm saving you almost $16,000 a year. And it took me 3 hours to build. Are you going to complain? Are you going to say, this only took you 3 hours? I'm not paying. Of course not. You're going to say thank you. Because you just got a system that generates thousands of dollars in value every single year for a fraction of what it costs. The problem is that most people are stuck in this employee mentality. In an employee mindset, like, you're trading your time for money. So more time equals more value. It's a direct exchange between time and money. But that's not how the real world works. And that's really your first step in entrepreneurship. Value is determined by results, period. Nothing else. A brain surgeon makes $500K a year, not because the brain surgery takes 20 hours. It takes maybe 3. The reason why they get paid so much is because the problem is such a big problem. It's such a big problem. They probably just saved your life. Your automation is the same. You're not being paid for the hours. You're being paid for the transformation. So stop thinking like an employee. Start thinking like a doctor, a sculptor, an artist, a strategist, someone who understands their values, not just how many hours they work, but how much value they can provide, but in what outcomes they can provide. Now, in being able to solve outcomes, how specific those outcomes and problems are that we can solve is also something that's going to add value. This is something that separates those $500 a month automators from the $5K a month automators. Generalists don't have expertise, but experts have no competition. When you're trying to sell to everyone, you're selling to no one. If you work for barbershops and e-com brands and gyms and spas and all these different companies, you're a jack of all trades, but you're a master of none. But when you actually pick a lane, let's say you love going to the gym. Let's say you're a personal trainer. All your life, you've just been around the gym. You know that gym owners are dealing with inconsistent attendance. You know their biggest cost is all the people they employ. So you can build a system once, an automated reminder and engagement sequence, and you can rinse and repeat that for yoga studios, gyms, CrossFit, whatever else. Personal training studios, doesn't matter because you're not reinventing the wheel every time. You know what works, so you're doing that. You're just tailoring what already works. But here's the real sauce. Because you have deep industry knowledge, you can walk in and talk to a gym owner and you can articulate their problems before they even think them because you just know the industry. Most gym owners I work with have their biggest turnaround week 3. And here's what we've been doing to fix that. You're an industry expert who just happens to do automation. And that shifts the conversation entirely because you're actually talking to them. I know because I've run companies before where as soon as I jump in that industry, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And immediately, oh, okay, this guy's not just cold calling me about some random service and like SEO. This guy's calling me because he actually owns one of these businesses. He knows what he's talking about. As soon as you speak the lingo, you're in. Plus, and this is a huge one, once you have proof that you can get Johnny's roofing company results, your pricing leverage goes through the roof, no pun intended. You can confidently say, look, I made Johnny $50K last month. Who's to say we can't do the same for you? So here's the framework you need to follow to close automation deals effectively. I like to do something called a 2-call close. So first call is going to be a deep dive, and the second call is actually going to be the solution. So in the deep dive, you want to break their business down into pieces. Get to their core problems, okay? Break down their business. What's their current process? What's the financial and time impact of that current process? By the end of call 1, you should feel like we know something about this person, right? We know about their business. We know their problems. You've understood their business. You've connected the dots they haven't connected. So that's call 1 done. Now, before we get into call 2, I don't want to just jump into call 2. This is another massive mistake. This is very granular. You don't want to just jump into, all right, yeah, man, let's just do the call. Okay, I think I have a good enough idea. No, in between these calls, what do we want to do? We want to build out a roadmap, because the roadmap is going to tell them exactly what we found. This is where you separate yourself from 99% of other people who sell automations. You take everything you learn and you create a simple visual. Could be a process map, could be a wireframe. It doesn't have to be super fancy. Just show them, look, I listened, I understood, and here's what I think we need to do. This is what closes the deal, not the automations, not the features. The moment when they realize you actually cared enough to put in some work before you just go and try to close them. Now, call 2 is simply presenting the solution. Very simple. We're just presenting what we found. We're just presenting our roadmap. If we're presenting our roadmap that we just built for them, contrary to popular belief, this call should be very easy. There's no pushy sales tactics. It's simply, here's what I mapped out. Here's the exact problem costing you money, and here's a solution that fixes it. What do you think? And some important questions to ask. Am I understanding this right? Is this aligned with what you're feeling? And you're asking questions together. It's not you asking them questions. It's just, are we looking at this the same way? Am I understanding this correctly? Is this the way you want it? Is this aligned with what you're feeling too? You're not pitching, you're confirming. The next part, and this is critical, you want to frame the ROI. So if I'm charging you 5K, I better be able to show them how they're going to make 50K. We got to show them how we're 10x in that bad boy. That could be saved time, that could be money, and more importantly, that could be opportunity cost. With opportunity cost, yeah, you might be paying an employee, but how much time goes into that employee and what they're doing and how much time are you actually saving? Opportunity cost is a big one. By getting this time back, how much more can you make with everything else? So it's not always like, well, I'm not making that right now. It's, yeah, but how much more could you be making if you had 10 hours a week? Sometimes you have to explain this to people because it's not always so obvious. And that's why it's so important for you to ask the right questions and actually be there to help them. Because there's a return on investment in every single automation, but your client's not always going to get to that conclusion on their own. They're not just going to naturally make the connection between 10 hours saved per week and $100,000 a year, but that's very realistic for so many businesses. So it's your job to map it out for them. You have to make things crystal clear. You have to break it down for them because otherwise they're not going to get to that conclusion. You have to show them it's not just an expense, right? There's obvious return. There's major upside. Now, once you have your highly coveted client number 1, all right, you finally did it. Congratulations. Once we get client number 1, usually within the first 3-4 weeks, but after 30 days, you want to ask for a testimonial. Now, what you're going to do with this testimonial is you're going to put it in video ads on Facebook. And I'm not going to get into all that in this video. If you want to know my client strategy with ads, it's all in my Skool group. We want to use those testimonials as leverage as early as possible because no one's going to believe that you can do all this great stuff that you're saying until someone else can vouch for you. There's actually a psychologist who studied ideas and movements. And basically how it goes is you have this one person. This one person is trying to make other people believe what he believes. He believes he can make everyone money. He believes he's the best. He knows he can. He's got these skills. But nobody else really believes that yet because he hasn't done it for anyone. Then here comes client number 1 walking on in and he says, you know what? I'll sign up with you, friend. And suddenly, if he can make client number 1 more money, all of a sudden, all these other people see what's going on. And they say, hey, wait a minute, Jimmy knows what he's doing. Jimmy's not crazy. And all of a sudden that turns into more and more and more people and more clients because all you needed was that proof. Proof is a very big deal. Social credibility is huge. Credibility, I'd say, is honestly the most important thing in business because it's your integrity. It's your ability to get results. This is what matters. So getting results for that first client when we do get them is crucial. It'll make or break your business. If you can't get good results, then you shouldn't be in business. So you better be able to get good results. Being able to get clients and produce results for your clients is the difference between you sitting there building automations in your bedroom and actually doing something bigger and living the life you've always wanted to live while actually helping people. Don't be afraid to go get your first client. Okay. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be your family member. It could be a friend. Look for problems to solve. If you can be a problem solver, people are always going to want you around. And especially with AI automation, there's such an opportunity now for you guys. If you guys are serious about taking AI automation to the next level, I highly recommend you get in my private community. You learn your fundamentals, you learn how to build automations, and most importantly, you learn how to actually make money with your automations. So other than that, guys, if you need my help, my links will be down below. Whether you want to book a call to work with me one-on-one, or if you want me to help your business scale with automations, everything will be down there in the description for you. So I appreciate you guys watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.